Quick recap what we have learned yesterday. Yesterday we have seen how to go ahead and create a lightning card. We have seen the lightning card is divided into the 3 areas. And the first one on top, header, body, footer. Again, in the header, it is divided into the 2 parts. Right side, actions, and the left side, title. Okay, and in the actions, we have seen the menu items, button, different type of buttons we have seen. And we also seen the aura set. Right, whenever we wanted to customize the default structure for the card, we have to use the aura set. So for aura set, if we want the button to be by default, it is placed as per the lightning component, then we have to use the attribute as a action. If you want title to be placed, then attribute is going to be the title. So we have seen all of this. I think you remember all of the button icon, button group, icon stateful, button icon stateful, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so right now I'll take this example. So this is what we have seen yesterday. If I click on a preview, so this is what we have implemented yesterday. If you remember, we have implemented multiple components with the same button group, menu items, right?
Yes.
So instead of writing the same logic in the multiple components, we can use the existing component. The button, if you go to the Salesforce and if you see any object, if you go to the any object and if you open the any record, new is the common, clone is the common, delete is the common, edit is the common. So these are a generic buttons. So for that, if I'm implementing any component and if that is using these buttons, edit, new, clone, save, new, whatever follow, if we are using that, instead of rewriting that code, what we can do is we can use the existing component. So lightning is nothing but a reusability of the existing component. So if I have already a menu item which is already taken care of here, I need not to copy the same logic here and put it. It doesn't make any sense if I'm writing the same code in the multiple component. Right? In that case, what I can do is I can reuse this component. Okay, instead of copying this and pasting that same logic, I can simply call that component. So that is the button group component. So how to call the component from another component? It's a C column, the component name, close the tag. So if I use the existing one, refresh it. See here menu items is added and then it is taking care of the all of this. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
So this is the real-time example. Like if we are working with any real-time work, ideally for any component, if I'm implementing, there are 2 buttons are mandatory: save, cancel, new, delete. So these are common buttons. Only thing is that which record to be saved, which record to be deleted, which record to be edited. Only that is the data that required for the component. So if we can implement that generic component which is related to cancel, new, or edit. So these, if I make it as a generic, wherever I need it, I can simply use that component wherever I want. So I need not to write the repetitively, I need not to write the code again and again. So I can reuse that component wherever it is needed based on the requirement. So yesterday, most of the part we have seen UI, creating the lightning card, buttons, menu items, all of this, right? So today, let's go ahead and learn how to handle the data. So let me create a new component. LC_0704 example. So basically, in order to handle the data, we need to understand the first thing is attribute. The first thing that we are going to learn is attribute. What is the attribute? We have a tag called aura:attribute. What is this attribute? Why we need this attribute? Attribute is the one which is going to hold the data in Lightning. It is kind of a container which can hold the data, single line of data, collection of data, or list of data, or array, or any type of image. Any type of data that I wanted to store in the Lightning component is where the place is Aura attribute. Aura attribute is going to hold the data that can be a static data, that can be the user input data, anything. So Aura attribute is the one which is going to hold the data. So what is the main attribute? So for the attribute, so here, what is my attribute name? I have to declare a name to the attribute. Okay, let's take an example of employee name. Okay, this is my attribute name. And what type of data it is, like if you remember in Salesforce, if I have to create a field, I have to go to the custom object, click on a new field, and I have to select the first data type, text or date time or checkbox. I need to select the data type. Then it will ask me to enter the name of field that I'm going to create it, right? So the same concept here for the Aura attribute. The name is nothing but my field name, my attribute name, and what type of data, what kind of a data that it should store. So I have to declare the type. I need string type of data I wanted to store in the employee name. Okay. Let's create few more here. I'll take it as a salary. Salary will be, it's a decimal. So that data type is decimal. And then I'll give company. Company is a string. Okay. If I have an attribute, years of experience, let's take it. Years of experience. So years of experience will be the integer. So this is very important to name the attribute. What is this attribute is going to play at the back end in the entire component. Because sometimes what happens is once it is delivered to the production, if we get any issue and if we wanted to debug the Lightning component, so these are the attribute which is going to play major role. If I know based on this name, like it says employee name, if the error is coming somewhere in the company information or EOE, so I'll just look at what are the places that my year of experience is setting up, or I'm getting it from where it is happening, set get where it is happening. So this attribute is the one which is the major key role that it is going to play in entire Lightning component, whether it is a controller, component, helper, wherever it is. The attribute is the one which is going to play major role. And attribute, aura attribute has to be declared starting of the component, beginning of the component. It does not work if you are going to declare it in the lightning card. If you are going to declare the aura attribute in the lightning card, it will throw an error. System will throw an error because that is not the structure of the lightning component. Okay, so now let's go ahead and declare the lightning card. So I'm using the lightning card here. So let me give title. Lightning card always have the title. Title is employee information. Okay, now here what I'll write, employee name, employee salary, employee company. I'll just say company. And then years of experience. Okay. So here I have some data which I wanted to place. I have declared the lightning card. Lightning card title is employee information. I have data that I have hard coded here. Employee name, employee salary, company, years of experience. So in the employee name, I should get the employee name details. In order to get the details, I have to use the attribute here. So that means this, whatever the data that contains in the EMP name should display here. How to declare the attribute inside the card? Curly braces, exclamation, v.emp name. Anywhere, if we wanted to declare an attribute, we have to use v dot. V that represent that I'm going to declare it attribute. And exclamation is which is common if we are using the attribute, or if I'm calling the another component, or if I'm calling the controller, this exclamation is very important. Okay, and this is the employee name, and if I want salary here, so I have to declare the salary. And then I need the company information. Attribute name always starts with a small and capital. Okay, so now I have the attribute that I have declared, the attribute that holds the data. I wanted to display the data that holds in the attribute. I wanted to display there. So that's the reason I have written the lightning card. Okay. Now when to display this data, that we will declare it here. So I do not want to display the data as soon as I load the page, because it does not have any value here. Right now it is empty. So let's declare the button. Aura set. Let's use the aura set. And my attribute is actions. Okay. Inside the aura set, let me declare lightning button. And my label is, let's take it as a submit. And on click of this submit, it should show the values here. So on click of this, I wanted to call the controller. Because my logic will be on the controller, JavaScript controller. Handle submit. Handle submit. So let's see how the output displays this one. I already have the application, so I use the same thing. C:, lightning component name. So I have a employee information, employee name, employee salary, everything is coming in one line. And the submit button automatically taken care to show at the right side because I have used the aura set. But this doesn't look right. Employee name, employee salary, everything is coming in one line. So let's use the break here. Refresh. Now it's coming employee name, employee salary, company, years of experience. But the data is not displaying here, right? Because I do not have a data in the attribute. Now, if I click on this, it will throw me an error because I do not have a controller. It's not declared. This handle submit button is not declared yet. So let's go to the controller. Let's use the same function name. Okay, handle submit function. And whenever you declare a function, these are the three parameters which are the, by default, it will show whenever we declare any function. Like if I open helper or if I open controller, by default, it will show the three parameters. Component, so basically helper is required here because this method, if it is calling any helper method, then we have to initialize the helper. Okay, but right now we do not need it, so I'll remove it because we do not have any helper here. I'm not going to call any helper method. I'll just remove it. Now let's add some alert because I want a confirmation whenever I click on a submit, is this function is calling or not. So I need some confirmation. I need to check whether this function is calling or not. I'll just add some text. Click on submit button. So I'll save it. Let's refresh this. Okay, so it is calling. As soon as I click on the button, it is calling my function and it is showing me the error message, right? Which is good. Now I can go ahead and set my attribute value. So in order to set my attribute value, the syntax is where is this attribute is declared on the component level, right? So it is declared on the component level. Whatever my parameter is there. So take that parameter component dot set, because I'm going to set my attribute value. What is the attribute that I wanted to set? Employee name. So in order to use the attribute, I have to use the b dot emp name. Make sure I'm using the right name. Yes. And then comma, set the employee name G1. Okay. So employee name is G1. Now let me set other attributes also. So copy this. Okay, what is the other values that I have? Salary, company, year of experience. Salary from 30K. Okay, company, some XYZ company. Year of experience, some 9 or 8 years of experience. So let me save this. Now I do not need alert, because now I got the confirmation that this function is calling as soon as I click on a submit method, submit button. Now let's go ahead. Let's see. I'll refresh, I'll click on a submit. See, the values are coming here. Okay. So let me add one more button to clear the values. Same, but I have to change the function name. It is a handle here. So whenever we are writing the multiple functions here, make sure we have a comma here. So once it ends, then we have to use the comma and then write the next function. Okay, now this is, I wanted to clear the information as soon as I click on the clear button. So I'll remove all the values, I'll set blank. Let's refresh. So I see submit clear. So if I submit it, it's showing me the details. If I clear it, it will clear the data. So which is simple and straightforward. So what we have done here, I have declared the attribute and I have set the hard-coded value in the controller, displaying the hard-coded value in the lightning card with the help of submit button. Then I'm clearing it. So this is everything, I'm hard-coding it, right? So let's see, instead of hard-coding it, how to capture the input values. Let's take the value that user has entered. Okay, so here we are hard coding it. Let's take the value that user has entered. So let me create another component, which is in order to capture the input value from the user, we have to create a lightning input. So this is the input attribute. So our component, so what we have, lightning colon input. Okay, so this is the one. If I use the lightning colon input, that means I'm expecting some input from the end user. And this input has label. I have to declare some label, right? If I go to the Salesforce, and these all are input because I can edit, right? So this is the label, and this is, I have to enter the value. So this label name I have to give. If I'm declaring the input, label is must. Let's take a employee last name. Okay. Let me declare a couple of them. And the next one is first name. And I have to declare the type as well. So for the input also, what kind of input it is? Is it a text input, or is it a number input, or is it a date input? So that I have to declare it. So employee last name is text. Let's take a different type of input. So let's use another label, which is a type as a date. So employee date of birth. Type equal to date. Let's take few more input which talks about the different type. Employee DOB time. And the type is time. And then employee email, type is email. And then employee phone number, type is phone. And then let's different type is password. We have a type password. Laptop password. And then let's see how this displays. Okay, so this is my input attribute. Let's copy this, paste it in my existing application. Update preview. See here, for text, it shows as a text. For date, it will show me this dialog box where I can select the date, which will only take the date, it will not take the time. And DOB, it will like here the time symbol, and it will show me this kind of a time. Like I can select 10:15 a.m. Same thing for email. It will, I have to enter the email. If I enter the normal text, it will show that you have entered the invalid format. So this everything is handled at the backend based on the type. Phone number, I have to enter the phone number. And password, I have to enter some password. If type is password, it will not show the text that I have entered because that is the type is password. Okay, now we have declared the input type. I have declared the label and I have declared the type as a text. But whatever I have entered, whatever the user entered on this input field, where to capture, where it is storing the data, whatever I have entered here, the data, where it is storing it. It's not storing anywhere right now. In order to store that, in order to hold the data, I have to declare aura attribute. Last name, and the type is string. Right? So for each one of them, right now, I have declared the last name. So I can use this attribute in the employee last name to hold the data. So to hold the value. To hold the value, I can give it here. So same way, I can declare it for each one of the input values. So if I wanted to hold the data for employee date of birth, I have to create a attribute, one more attribute to hold the date of birth. Right? So this way, I can, whatever the data is entered on the input field, in order to hold that, I have to use the aura attribute. Okay. Let's take a real scenario. For example, there is a scenario is user will be entering some values here, height and width. Okay, let's take height and width. So I have to calculate the height and width. So that means if I have a button, I should be having a button add, and I should be having a button subtract, multiply. So based on the action that I click on, it should calculate the two values. So this is the requirement. Okay. So let's go ahead and implement that requirement. So first thing is that I have to have a 3 attribute, because one is the first value and second value and then result. These are the 3 attributes I need to hold the data. So let's declare aura attribute. Name is height value, and the type is integer. Now like this, I need another 2 attributes. This is the width, and the last one is the result. All the type is integer because I'll be entering the numbers. Okay, this is to hold the values. I have declared the attribute. Now, what I need buttons, 3 buttons, add, subtract, multiply. Okay. So I'll use the lightning card. And what is my title? I'm calculating the value. So calculator. And okay, let's close this. If I want any icon that I wanted to use it from the lightning design system, I can use it. So let's go to the lightning design system. Let me see if I have anything which talks about calculator. Let me take expense report. This is standard icon. So my icon name is standard expense report. Okay. Now inside this card, I need 3 buttons. Let me use the aura set and my attribute equal to actions. Let's close this. Now inside this aura set, I have to declare the lightning button. Lightning button. What is my label? Add. And what should happen on click? It should call my controller. Okay. So same way, let me add 2 more buttons. Subtract, handle sub, multiply, handle, multiply. Okay. If you want to merge these 3 buttons, you can use it lightning button group. So I can place this. So we have seen all of this yesterday, right? Button group button, aura set. Now my buttons are ready and I have an attribute to hold. Now I wanted to show those attribute values, or I wanted to display those attributes inside the lightning card. It has to be user has to enter the value. So I'm expecting some input from the user. So it is going to be the lightning input. Label is, I'll just enter the first name. And what is the value? Whenever the user enter the value, where I wanted to store, I wanted to store in H value. Let me add this input for the other. This is the second value. Second value is W10. I'll This is the result. Okay, so now my UI is ready. I have a button. I have a lightning input where user can enter the values. Now let's go to the controller. Let's create a skeleton for all of them. I have a 3 functions which are calling from the component. Handles up, handle, multiply. Okay. So there is no plan to call for helper. There is no plan to call event also. Event is basically when we have a component event, application event. If I am playing with any event, then we have to use the parameter event. But right now, the connection is only between the component and controller. So I only need a parameter component. What is that logic that I wanted to write here? As soon as the user enter the value in H value and W value, I wanted to capture these 2 values, right? In order to get these values, what I have to use? These are coming from the component dot get. If I am setting the value, then we have to use the set. If I am getting the value, then we have to use the get. V dot H value. So I'll be having the value here. So I'll get the value for the second one. Okay. I'm getting the value of first one and the second one. Let me store this one variable. Declare it as a equal to. So let me store whatever the values that I'm getting it from the user. I'm storing it one variable, which is called as a and which is called as a B. Okay, now the logic, what it should happen here, I have to add these 2 values, right? I have to add A plus B. Okay, and this value I wanted to store in a result. I wanted to set the value in the result. From where this attribute is coming, component dot set, and my value is V dot result, comma A plus B. So I'm setting the value for that is coming from A and B, whatever the output of the add that I'm storing into the result. This is the same logic for the other 2, only the thing is that subtraction, right? Let me add that. Okay, now let's refresh. Okay, so calculator, it is displaying here, add sub, it is displaying here, and enter the first value. You will see one weird thing here. I'll just enter the 20, and then I'll enter 5. Multiply, showing perfectly fine. Subtract, showing perfectly fine. But when I click on add, it is concatenating the two values. Because in JavaScript, plus we use it for the concatenating. Or the text that whatever we are entering, it is thinking as a string when we are adding it. So for that, what we have to use in the JavaScript, we have parts in it. So that means whatever the data it is coming, it doesn't matter. Change that into the integer. It's assuming that when I click on the add, it's assuming that it is a string format and which it is concatenating it. If I say parse int, whatever the type, it can be the decimal, it can be the integer, it doesn't matter, it will convert into the integer. Let's refresh this. Enter same value. And let's click on add. Now it is adding the value. Right? Couple of things to note here. When we are doing the function, make sure the parameter, whatever the parameter is required, only use that parameter. Do not use the one which you do not need it. If you write it here, helper, it doesn't make any sense because we are not calling anywhere here helper method. So why do I need it? Okay, that is one thing. And between the each function, comma, it has to be separated by comma. And one of the good habit is writing the comments on the top. So make sure you have the description. Description is basically what is this function is doing, what is the output of this function, or what is the logic that is playing here. Adding the two values. And what is my output? Result, which is a plus B. So what will happen is, if it is a small logic, if it is a small function, you will understand it doesn't take much time for you to go through the each one of the line. Assume that the function has some 30 lines. Okay, you have to go through the logic. It's not a simple logic. And it has a list, it has an array, and you are doing the first substring. What is the substring? First substring value. If it is a @ it is doing a different logic. If it is an ampersand, we are doing a different logic. If we have a difficult logic that is written in the method, please write the description here and the output also. What will happen is, if tomorrow somebody review the code, they will understand what is the output of this and what is the description, what is the logic that is written in this method, instead of going through the each method, each function. It is good to go through the function. Also, it is good to write the description on top so that it will be clear for us also. That means if I am able to write the description and output, that whatever the logic that I have written, I'm perfect clear on that function logic. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Any questions so far?
Good. As of now.
Okay. So right now what we have done, we have implemented the Lightning application. And this application is following the different component. Component 1, component 2, different components it is calling. So that is, this is one of the component 1. And then JavaScript, controller JavaScript. So the flow is, so far the flow, what we have seen the application. When I'm executing, actually I'm previewing the application. I'm clicking on the preview on the application. Right, I'm previewing the application. When I click on a preview, application calls the component, which are the component that is declined inside. It will call that particular component. And in the component, the first thing is that it will execute the lightning card. It will execute the lightning card. And whatever the attributes are there, then it will declare the attributes. And if we have any JavaScript controller, then if we are clicking on that JavaScript controller, then it calls the JavaScript here. So this is the flow that we have seen so far.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or anything, doubts?
As of now, good. No doubts.